Welcome back to Book Watch. In this part two of Treasure Island, we're taking off on an adventure of a lifetime as we join two iterations of Jim Hawkins on their adventures for Captain Flint's treasure. Once again, we have mutineered, excuse me, against Sarah Day. You know, if it's our second mutiny, that makes it a mutiny now, I think, right?
I think
Um,
so.
but Sarah Day's out this week. Another week without Captain McD, and Jordan and I are casting our ships for the joyride. And as you can see, Jordan has lost some background equipment. She's lost her treasure. Her trove is getting smaller, but we will persist and continue on until she reaches her new destination in a couple weeks. All of that will be dived the rest of the way into as we walk the plank in part in the after these messages. All right, so this week we've got to really bring everything back together and look at all these different scenes from the Treasure Island book and the Treasure Planet movie. And
Hmm.
now we talked a lot about it last week. There was a lot of stuff we went back and forth on.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start with this? You want to go all the way through it, beginning and the end, and going all the way to the resolution? What's the most important way to get through this for you?
Oh, well, to start at the beginning, to be sure.
Because I say let's
Um,
just watch the movie and forget about the book. That's the way to handle Treasure Planet, in my opinion. But
I mean, I'm kind of down for that, which is not something I usually say, but this book is like, you can tell it's written in a different age. It's very dense and very thick to get through. Like, it
but
feels
pretty
like you're
short,
walking
which is
through
interesting.
sludge. Yeah, short, but it felt like it takes forever to get through, which
It
is
did, yeah.
weird. A weird
But
thing. I'm like, this book is not that long. Why am I struggling? But
yeah,
it's okay.
all right. So
But yeah,
we discussed each of these scenes probably a little bit when we were going through the characters, but the
yeah,
arrival at the inn with when Bones shows up on the at the inn and rents a room and hides his treasure in the book is
yeah.
where that starts. And he stays there quite a while. We see a lot of story being built up in those first few probably months that he's just hanging out at the inn, hiding out from whoever he's the in the book. It's the one-legged man.
Hmm. Yeah, he's definitely there for a long period of time in the book, and he's always like, "Watch out for the man with the peg leg. Like he's bad news. Like you don't want to trust him." Meanwhile, he himself is like a dirty drunken pirate, like living in this hotel and or
And
this
not paying his
inn,
bills.
not paying his bills and just like scaring off the other customers and just causing a lot of problems. But he's like, no, no, no. Like, you think I'm bad. I'm not the worst thing that can happen. Um, and yeah, and we talked about it a little bit last week, like the difference in pacing between the book and the movie. This scene is literally like he crash lands and makes a couple of comments and then he dies right there in Jim's arms. Like it's very, very quick. Um, and the other pirates like coming in and chasing down Billy Bones is like a whole chase scene versus it's not like that at all in the book. It's still, even when the other pirates come, there's like one suspenseful
Right.
moment where Jim is like hiding under a bridge and then like that's it, and then it's all like, yes, Dr. Livesey and Mr. Trelawney, what should we do next about this problem with the pirates? And it's very like gentlemen discussing the matter at hand instead of like jump on this alien dinosaur looking thing and we're going to take off running and figure out, and it's not an action sequence basically.
Right.
um
Which is much better in the movie from that standpoint. Those action sequences are what you need in any film, but
yeah.
it just was a lot of unnecessary build up. I don't feel like we got a lot of extra exposition. The man with the peg leg thing or kind of comes back again in Pirates of the Caribbean with the whole Barbosa having that wood leg and the one of the later ones there. So it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting that they pulled some of these little elements from
Yeah.
different books as he is the feared man with the one leg in that one
Yeah.
to some of the people. And so I thought just caught my attention when we were saying that there.
Yeah, for sure.
um
I like the difference too, the movie and the book, like the exposition about Jim and his lack of a father figure In the
Right.
book, Jim's dad dies. He's just like has a weak constitution. He's a weak man. um like he has ill health and he just dies like suddenly, like some random illness in the book. And Jim is like sad about it, but that's why he is fatherless. Versus in the movie we see, um further in the film, we get a whole flashback scene of Jim and Long John Silver, and we watch Jim's dad walk out on Jim and his mom. And I think that's a really important difference, talking about like the dynamic of Jim and Long John Silver, which we mostly got into last week. So listen to last week's episode. But like the difference of my dad dying of an illness and my dad walking out on me, that creates a very different kind of attitude in a person. And I think that that's the biggest difference in the movie and in the book. Is book Jim seems at the beginning at least to be very timid. He's not really sure he wants to do all this. He's like, well, if I don't go now, like I'll probably never get off of this rock and, go see anything with my life, so I might as well give it a shot. Versus movie Jim has been dying to get out into space, and he's been dreaming of this and Flint's treasure and all of these things, this adventure. He's been dying to have that his whole life. And so I think honestly, like, yeah, there's the whole part of it being in space versus in like actual historical pirate times, but I think the difference in Jim is the biggest difference between book and movie.
That's fair. It's the Will Turner equation. Your dad was a filthy pirate and a good man, but we
Right.
never get back to him, which in the film either. But
Yeah.
I kind of always wondered throughout the whole movie. It's like, is one of these people going to be his dad? But no, they don't give us that, so that's fine.
That would have been interesting and a very different movie, I think.
It probably would have been, yeah. What if his dad had been the? I mean, in the book we get the guy, the robot that's, or the guy has been marooned there for a certain amount of time. In the movie, it's a robot. But
Mm,
the guy that'd been stuck on the island being his dad would have been a whole different storyline too.
that would have been
But we'll get to that.
crazy, actually. Again, totally different movie,
Yep.
but that would have been crazy.
Yep. Exactly. Next up, we basically we push off. We go on the voyage. So you got the doctor putting together this exposition, and they're we start the in the book the long journey or the long prep for the journey, and there's more exposition, more exposition, more exposition, more exposition, and then we finally leave.
Yeah,
That's
it
kind of
takes
how this whole
forever.
book feels. A lot of people talking about things, and then finally something happens. Maybe
Yeah, it does set up the dynamic of um, the captain and the crew being separate entities. This is not a captain and crew like collection that have worked together before. There's the captain that Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney, who in the movie are just kind of crammed into the doctor. Um, that character who is hired, and then Long John has his own crew, and they talk to Long John Silver and hire him and his crew separately. And so that is like crucial for the plot of setting up the mutiny, and like the dynamic of there's the good guys on this side and the bad guys on this side. That's all set up in this section. Robert Louis Stevenson just takes forever to get to it.
we're not a very patient crew here.
No,
Um,
it's
yeah, and I didn't see any problem with that in the book overall, but yeah, it did take a little while to get there. The movie
yeah.
definitely moves you along a lot quicker. We get the meeting with the captain. She locks away the map that he has, the little
Hmm.
his little puzzle box, locks it in the ship's safe so that nobody takes it because she doesn't trust the crew.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about it again. And that's kind of the they ship off. They go through. They go up to the space, or they're at the spaceport. Has a few scenes there in the movie, but mostly it's just getting on the ship and pushing
Yeah.
off into space or
Yeah.
into the ocean.
I really liked Captain Amelia. We talked about it last time too, like the lack of females in the story. Um and I mentioned it then, but like having not just throwing a random female character in, but making her be the captain of the ship. And she's very qualified. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's good at her job. Um, you know, a testament to the day and age in which each medium was created. But she was
Definitely.
awesome. I love her.
such a great character, especially in the film. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then I mean, then it's just ship life as usual until we get to the mutiny moment. And the book, it's there's a lot of different mutiny moments. I feel like in the book versus the
Hmm.
film because there's the main mutiny, but then there's also a couple times that they are arguing over who should be the captain now or what all this stuff is. In the book, it was pretty far off in the story. You get through a lot of the space travel. You spend a lot of time with Jim and Silver getting to know each other, and him learning to do his chores well, and as the cook's assistant, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to be just wearing him down with as many chores as possible, but he's actually building this bond with him, and that's really important to the rest of the story,
Yeah.
both in the book and in the film. But um, the mutiny happens. They take over the ship after getting rid of the second mate in the movie. In the book, I can't remember. Does that happen? Do they lose the
No.
uh,
They do lose
anybody?
some guys on the good side, but not till later. Um, and like the benefit, which we've talked about before in other properties, but like the benefit of a film is getting multiple points of view. So the scene in the movie where we lose the second mate or the first mate, the captain's number two,
Right.
um, he like the bulldog looking character, whom I loved, but
Right.
whatever. Um, when we lose him, like we get to see that Jim tightened all the ropes because they're in space, and so if they get outside of the like field of gravity of the ship, they're just going to float off into space or wherever. And so they're battling a black hole, which is another action sequence that is thrown in to liven things up a little bit because again the book is a little bit boring. But we get to see like Jim does his job and like just like how Silver taught him, and he pulls the ropes and he tightens them and he makes sure that everybody's going to be safe. And we see the Mr. Hand's character, the little spidery guy, go and cut the first mate's rope and kill him basically. And so that's like, as the audience, that's our first like official piece of evidence that these are pirates and they're bad guys, because up till now they're just kind of like sketchy looking, but they haven't actually done anything. um but even Jim, like Jim gets blamed for that because it was his job to tighten the ropes, but nobody else saw that happen, so nobody else knows that it was a murder. They just think that Jim, is a screw up and a loser and didn't do his job
Or just made a
properly.
mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we
He kind
know.
of takes that like screw up loser onto himself because he already feels that way because of his home, like growing up without a
Right.
dad and like his mom like trying to keep him out of trouble and all of that kind of stuff. He kind of internalizes it that, not everybody thinks I'm the worst. And it's like, no, dude, like you don't know this, but it wasn't your fault.
I'm so emo. Oh.
Literally.
All right. And then so that's all a lot of fun, but also sad in the film to see, we lose a character we liked, and we have to go on from there, and we kind of get Silver trying to comfort him and stuff. And so we go on from there to the actual mutiny that happens when they get to Treasure Planet in the film. I think it's when you're pretty close to Treasure Island in the book. So when they
Yeah.
arrive at Treasure Island, they've already been mutinied. The ship crew go aboard and leave the captains on the ship in I think in both properties. No, they're running away in the movie.
Hmm.
In the film, they stay on the ship and let the pirates go aboard, and then they sneak off later.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, there's only so much similarity you can have when you're talking about like a ship at sea versus a spaceship that still looks like a ship.
that part
So
confuses me always a little bit. How you sail through space on a ship that looks like a ship and not like a rocket. Space must be much
I
different,
they have different laws of physics out there, I guess.
clearly, but still black holes, and still people can float off into space, but
They have space whales.
they do have
I
space
got so
whales.
excited when I saw the space whales because it reminded me of Star Wars. I was like, "Oh my god, they have space whales! They were so cute." Um, and there was no aquatic life mentioned in the book Treasure Island, which is a little sad. Like, there's no dolphins and like literally nothing. But whatever.
They were busy
Um,
killing off all the whales. That was a whole
yeah,
job.
true. Yeah, dang, he got me.
That was probably all treasure, anyways. That was what the real treasure hunt was getting to the pot of whales. So
Whale oil.
yeah. So now on that dapper note or that downer note, we can move on to the rest of the treasure hunt here. And so the race to find the treasure in the film is kind of just them wandering around a island trying to find where this
Mhm.
X is, or where the actual treasure is being kept. Along the way, they meet the what was his name? I'm forgetting the guy
Ben.
maroon there. Ben.
Ben
Yeah,
Gunn
Ben.
is, yeah, just Ben in the movie.
That's right. They find him on the planet. Jim finds him on the island,
Hmm.
and he kind of helps save him from the pirates in that moment. I think it
Yep.
was, and kind of builds a friendship with him. And then
Captain is
the
injured at this point.
that's right.
So doctor is trying to, and we get the fun scene that we mentioned where doctor is like, "I'm not that kind of doctor. I just have a PhD. I'm useless."
That's
So
right.
he's
Yeah.
trying to tend to her while Jim and Ben, the robot, are like going off trying to find things. Um, and in the book, it's again like a little confusing and a little bit boring, but you basically have the two camps of like the pirates over on this part of the island, and like Jim and Doctor and Squire and Captain on this part of the island, and there's like a hut house situation that they're in, and it basically is kind of a little Lord of the Flies situation where they're all like, well, this island ain't big enough for the two of us type deal. And so like they're trading shots and they're trying to kill each other, and nobody's actually looking for the treasure for a while in the book. They're so busy trying to like outmaneuver and strategize each other. And they're just kind of hanging out. So in the book it's a very like and it kind of happens in the movie too, but again a little bit quicker, where Jim goes and is like, we can't just sit here forever, somebody's got to do something, and Jim goes to the ship. And in the book he like takes the ship like totally around, like he circumvents the island and finds a little cove that he like kind of maroons it on, like he washes it up on shore, and that's where he fights with one of the maids and kills him. And then in the movie he like goes takes the little speeder and goes up to the ship in space and like cuts the guy loose and he floats off into space, just exact. And it's the same character, for ironic justice, that,
Hands.
yeah, Mr. Hands, who like killed the first mate earlier, and he dies the exact
Right.
same way, so it's like, yeah, get him.
It's just poetic justice. Yep.
Yes, that's
Um.
what I meant.
Yep. And that whole scene in the book kind of confused me when he was sailing the boat around. I was like, wait, is he leaving? Where are we going with this boat here on this boat trip that Jim's taking here? I was leaving everybody behind, but it came back around, and I think the film does a better job of just making it. He had to go up there to get the map that got left behind
Yeah,
when the little blobby guy made himself into the map instead.
yeah.
So it was a more believable reason to go back to the ship and do
Yeah,
anything.
the movie definitely made it make much more sense than the book. And because even in the book, like you get Jim's inner monologue, he's like, "Oh, this is kind of a stupid idea. I probably shouldn't have done this." It's like, yeah, bro, like you didn't want to think. He's very book Jim is very impulsive, and he does not think things through and think about the consequences until after the fact. He's like, "Oh man, like I can't sail a whole ship by myself." Like, duh, bro. Like, what? There's a reason that ships need captains and crews to use them. Like, of course, you can't sail the whole ship by yourself. Like, you've also never sailed a ship before. Like, you
Right.
were the cook's assistant on board, you're the cabin boy, whatever. Like, you don't actually know anything about sailing a ship. What are you doing? Not to mention the fact that like you have an injured person, everybody else is like trying to figure this out, and like the dynamic and the politics of like who, the two different camps, like I said. And you're just like, well, I'm gonna peace out and leave everybody on their own and go to the ship. For what was the reason? What was the reason? And then like you said, the movie
Plot
is like, well,
or lack
literally.
thereof.
Right, to that part. And like you said, the movie makes more sense where it's like, oh, we all still need the map. And Silver and the pirates think that Jim has the map. Jim knows that it was Blob. What's his name? Not his name's not Blob.
No, it's
Morph. My
Morph.
boy
Morph.
Morph. Yeah. Morph was the map. So the map is still on the ship. So he has to go back to the ship to get the map. Doctor needs to look after Captain. Ben is useless for that. So that explains all that. And it's fine. It makes
And
sense.
Ben's a fun little, like, comedic moment there of him having to, like, in the at least on the film, he had to try to turn off the unlock the door or something, or I remember what it was. Oh, turning off the lights, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he
Um
was trying to turn off the
Oh,
lights.
no, just disabling the cannons. That's what he was doing. He went
Oh,
in and
yes. Yeah.
was playing with all the electronics, and ends up. That's why Israel hands, or the hands, floats away in the
Yes.
film, is because he turns
He
off
turned
the
the
artificial
gravity.
gravity,
Yes. You're
and
right.
then he's able to be cut loose when he's trying to do the same to Jim. So it was kind of
Yes.
the self defense of, you were going to do this to me, so now you're going to float out into space yourself.
Good.
Rightfully
Good.
so. Yep.
Amen. Yeah. So Jim gets the map. Um, this is like this part of the movie, like it really kind of diverts. They divert from each other because now
Right.
Jim has the map, and then Silver and crew like come in and take over, and then they like basically hold Jim at gunpoint. Like, we're gonna kill the captain, we're gonna kill the doctor if you don't like use the map. And because for some reason Jim's the only person who can figure out how to open the map.
Or
And
understand it
so like,
somewhat. So
yeah, and so they're like, if you don't do what we tell you to do, like, we're just gonna start we're just gonna start blasting. um Versus in the book, they still kind of get to that point, but like not really. Like, they do a trade. Jim gets taken by Silver and Co, while the doctor, the squire, and Ben Gunn are like setting traps and like trying to freak out the pirates and
right.
like pretend to be Captain Flint's ghost and stuff. And it gets a little weird and wonky.
Hey, they were all probably drunk by this point. It's a little too much rum on the boat there. They're all susceptible to that.
Yeah.
So greatly so. Yeah, you got to do that. Freaking out with people with ghost stories.
Hmm.
Good way to not be hunting for treasure. Anywho, we'll go on to finding the treasure, which in the film is literally opening up this portal they find that basically opens up the core of the planet. You also find out in the film that it can open up to basically wherever it wants to be.
Hmm.
Um, and that's pretty cool. I really like the visuals they use there. In the book, it seems like they find where the treasure's supposed to be buried, and then there's like no treasure there because it was already moved by a gun. We find out later
Hmm.
into the camp somewhere up on the mountain, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, so I
So it
think
was
Ben
safe.
Gunn was on the original crew with Captain
Right.
Flint, who buried it in the first place. And he, has been here for so long. I think he was kind of wanting to use it as like a bartering tool. Like, well,
Right.
it's been moved, so I know where it is. So if you want it, I'll tell you, but you need to agree to take me with you, that kind of a thing. Um, and so there's all that back and forth with everybody. But yeah, like you said, in the movie, there's the portal that gets them to the core of the planet, and basically, like, everybody gets to just, go ham and take whatever they want, except for there's a booby trap. And the booby
Hmm.
trap basically is going to blow up the whole planet because Flint is just that selfish of a guy where he's like, I'm dead, but nobody's going to have my treasure but me. I'm just going to let it sit here forever instead of letting anybody else have it. So I'm going to literally blow up this whole planet um, if anybody tries to take my stuff. So then there's like the whole time, like, we've got 2 minutes until the planet explodes. Cut to a 10-minute sequence
Right.
of trying to save everybody before it happens.
As long as you show the
Um,
clock counting down little by little, in chunks of
yeah,
time, as just moving by very slowly.
yeah. So, and we get, a continuation of the dynamic between Silver and Jim, where Silver like has come to begrudgingly, I think, in his own weird piratey way, he's come to love Jim, and he like the whole thing is about getting the treasure. And like both movie and book, Silver their goal is the treasure. Like they're not actively trying to hurt Jim. He's not actively trying to hurt, the doctor or the captain or anybody else. He just really wants the treasure, and he's a pirate, so he has no morals. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the treasure. But if he can avoid harming Jim, he's going to avoid harming him whenever possible. And so you get the moment, in the movie with like everything is falling and burning and exploding, and Long John, has like a ship that he can get away with that's full of treasure, and Jim is, hanging by his fingernails from the cliff, and Jim's gonna fall and die, and Long John makes a choice to save Jim instead of just scooting on out and escaping. Um, which is interesting and different from, again, the book doesn't go that deep into Long John's character, I think, as the movie does. In the book, again, so selfish. He's just like, well, Jim, I've never harmed you, my boy. Like, when we get back, just take me with you. Like, he's begging for his life. Like, just, Jim, can, I've been good to you. Like, please convince everybody else to take me home, and then, help convince the police to not hang me for being a pirate. You know, Again, not actively harming, but he doesn't actively save Jim in any way, the way that film Silver does.
Yeah, the relationship's not quite as close in the book, but
Yeah.
I think that dynamic and that sacrifice moment there really brings some depth to the character, and it shows Jim that, oh, he does care about me. He was willing to give up his treasure to save my life, and then the sequence continues, and they keep working together to solve this puzzle that they have to fix in the last 2 minutes here of how are we going to get out of here? How are we going to be safe?
Mhm.
So in the film, I don't even think the book. I'm not even sure how it ends up resolving at this point. It was so much back and forth of stuff happening that I kind of lost in the last couple weeks. But in the film, they build one of those little flying surfboards for Jim, and he goes and hits the button on the teleporter to move its location for transport back to where they started. And he's able to have this really last minute moment of everything's turning to lava around me, and I got to hit this button, and then the boat's going to go through, and I'm going to go through, and things are going wrong. So it's a much more actiony moment that sticks with me a lot more than whatever garbage happens in the book. It was a good framework, but it didn't quite stick with me, and my was didn't have the meat I needed for a story to stick in my heart here.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like you said, I don't really remember how it ended either because the ending was like that boring. I'm pretty sure, again, it was more of just gentlemen
A
being gentlemen and
gentleman
talking, and
agreement,
yes, and we agreed that we'll take you back, and since you're outnumbered, like Silver basically is the last man standing from the pirate crew, so they're like, okay, we need every man we can get. It's all hands on deck. Ha ha ha, to actually man the ship to get everybody
right?
home. So fine, you can come home with us, but then like you're going to jail, we're taking you to the police, like we're doing all of
Well,
that.
that's right. They
And
leave they leave the other mutineers on the island.
yeah, yeah,
That's what happens in the
they
book. That's right.
okay.
It's not that they were gone; it's that they get left behind in order to basically they'll get saved if someone comes. There's enough provisions here. We're leaving for them, but we're
Mhm.
taking the treasure and we're leaving them. That's what it was. Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay. So
Sorry.
but again, like boring.
Right, I agree.
Boring, lame. It's like gentlemen discussing what the best course of action is, and Silver gets to win and come back without actually doing anything redeemable, versus in
Right.
the movie, like we said, he actively saves Jim's life. He could have chosen to let him die, and he chose to save him, and then they all escape, and then it's like, well, you know what, instead of bringing you back home and sending you to the police. You saved my life, so here's your little doggy bag of treasure. You go on your way, we'll go on our way, and we just never speak to each other again. And I think that's a better ending.
But he lets Morph stay with him. Morph
Yeah,
chooses to stay with Jim and is a
he
new buddy for him. Such a sweet moment.
that made me like unreasonably emotional actually,
Right?
because like Morph was so cute, because like again in his weird piratey way, Long John Silver loves Morph. Like that's his little buddy, that's his baby, that's his little guy, that's been his partner in crime literally for however many years, and he's like, no, like I care about you, Morph, and I care about this kid, I want you two to be together. And he's again
Watch
making a
over him for me.
sacrifice. Yes, he's making a sacrifice for Jim, like to make Jim's life better. And
Leave a little part of himself with him.
yeah, and, like, not that Jim would ever forget what happened anyways, but, like, just to always have that piece of Long John. Because again, the movie, like, it's a montage, so it happens pretty quickly, but, like, the movie goes through, like, all of the hours, days, potentially weeks of bonding that Long John and Jim had on the ship on their way to Treasure Planet. Like, they got close, and we talked about it earlier, Jim has no father. He has no father figure in his life. So, like, all of the, like, lessons of how to be a man he's getting from Long John Silver, which, like, he's a pirate, so there's definitely some issues there, but at some point, it's something, you know? And
Definitely.
between the influence of, Long John and then now I think Captain Amelia and the Doctor, like, movie Jim is set up for success where he has like strong people around him. Not that his mom wasn't, but like I mm, it's his mom. Like he's a teenage boy. Like of course he doesn't want to listen to his mom. He doesn't think his mom knows anything. Like I know she's a baddie and I love her, but like he's a teenage boy. Like there's only so much she can do. Like he needs other people to influence him. And so I think now like the combination of mostly Long John, but then also a little bit of Captain Amelia and the Doctor. Like Jim is now has a good foundation of what it means to be a man, and we see at the end of the movie, he comes home in his uniform. He's part of the Navy now. He's one of those guys. He's going somewhere productive with his life, and
And
that's
the
very
captain was the one
exciting.
that gave him that recommendation to become one
Yes.
after she saw his skill as a pilot of his little ship thing and how, he understood the way things worked on the ship in a lot of cases. And so it
Hmm.
was cool for him to get that strong authority figure on his side as well. It really led
Yes.
to, the cops that were arresting him in the beginning of the film are now the ones that are introducing him as the new captain or the new cadet at the
Right.
academy. So
Yeah.
it was a fun little reversal of fate in the end here, as he didn't get the treasure he
Yes.
was after, but he got what he needed out of the adventure.
He got something even better. A coming of age
Family.
story. Family. And then, like, Books Jim just, like, goes back to running the inn with his mom,
Good man.
as far as we know. Like,
But yeah, we don't know what happens after
like
that.
the
So
right thing to do, certainly, like, yeah, it's, 1700s England. You gotta have an income. You gotta take care of your mom. Like, you're the, like, legally, probably he owns the place now. So, like, yeah, you gotta go back and run the inn. So, yeah, like, that's the right thing for him to do in that story. But, like, gosh, it's so boring.
kind of was. Yeah. So adding spaceships and space and all these aliens and making the story have a better conclusion with actually getting some, like, the doctor and the captain have their babies and the and he gets his little military journey. It all kind of it made the story have a lot more stakes and
Yeah.
set us up perfectly for a number two, which we never got.
So tragic. I'm really curious because this is one of the ones that like there's been so many different iterations of that we've talked about covering it multiple times. I am really curious to see what like the Muppets version is like because the
I
Muppets
haven't seen
like
it either.
when like we did Muppets Christmas Carol and it was like very spot on like page for page of the book A Christmas Carol. So I'm
Okay.
really curious to see if the Muppets version like because I think it probably will follow the story more closely if it's able to do as much of like bringing in the depth of the characters and like just making the story more exciting
Yeah.
in obviously in its own muppety way with like
Right.
the humor and the rats and Rizzo and all that kind of stuff. But like we said, we've said it several times now, so sorry to the listeners for being repetitive, but like this book is boring, bro. it's
Yep. And
it's
but I am
boring.
interested to check some of the other versions too. The Muppet one's going to be, I mean, interested in, but like even some of the other shows or the other iterations over time, I'd like to see how they changed it to make it more
Yeah.
interesting. So I think it will be something we cover a few more times at least over the next
Mhm.
couple years. We will
Yeah.
probably get back to this here and there, but And we'll probably do Muppets next. So, but I'm really interested to see how it goes. I don't know if I want to read the book again, but I'm interested to see how some of the other adaptations go.
Yeah. I also like to be serious about this book and like its cultural impact. Like so much of pirate media today stems from this book. Like there weren't a lot of historical fiction novels about pirates before this book. I'm sure there were some, but this one really like took it off and like made everybody be like start had like the wider pop culture start to romanticize the pirate era and
Right.
piracy in general, the pirate golden age, right? In like the 1750s ish to the 1780s ish, kind of somewhere in there. But like we've got so many different shows now and movies, like you talked about Pirates of the Caribbean, and like Black Sails was very popular recently. Like there's a lot of pirate romanticism and pirate media now in this day and age that we probably wouldn't have if it weren't for this book being written. So, as boring as it is, I think that's mostly a product of when it was written and the style of books at that time. But
Yep.
what would the world be like without Captain Jack Sparrow? You know, and like
Exactly.
where
So
we
you
need
have to
Captain
you
Jack
have to walk
Sparrow.
before you can run. So
Right.
we
Exactly.
definitely
This
I
was,
definitely still appreciate these kinds of books that were the early successors to, or early predecessors to some of these other things.
yeah.
So I definitely think that it is a worthwhile read for anybody looking for something historical, something or ish to and something fun, an
Yeah.
adventure. But just know what you're getting into when you start reading it. It's definitely not going to be all action scenes, but it's
Yeah.
interesting enough. You can, if you're willing to listen through the dialogue and hear what's being said behind everything, it's pretty
Yeah.
good. So, any
I
other final
haven't
thoughts on it?
I just want to recommend another pirate book. I haven't read it in years, but I distinctly remember loving it when I did read it. It's called Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park. Um, I don't remember if it's a like retelling or like a spin-off of Treasure Island, but if you're looking for another pirate book that's well written, you can't go wrong with Michael Crichton, obviously, but Pirate Latitudes is a banger.
I have it on my shelf. I bought it while I was looking for my Jurassic Park collection, but
I
I
of
have not
course
read it
you
yet.
did.
So
It's
I will
good.
definitely pick it up by that recommendation. So
If I
definitely
get back
good
in
to
a
know.
pirate mood after this, that's what I'll be reading instead of Treasure Island.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. We appreciate you. We've posted our 1 year appreciation post on Facebook with a little bit of sappy stories about our starts to everything, how things are going with us hosts. So go check those out. Give us a like, give us a follow, and definitely go back and listen to some of our other things. We talked about our Muppets Christmas Carol. That was a lot of fun. We've Pirates of the Caribbean, or sorry, Treasure. One more time, Jurassic Park. We got our Percy Jackson content. Definitely go listen through the catalog. There's gonna be
Yeah.
something for everybody in there. Thank you again for listening, and give us a follow. And we're out. Till
Bye.
next week. Bye.
Ahoy.
Arr. Something for the bloopers.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Book Watch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.